All right, hello everybody. This is the Unit 8 review video, part 1. So let's jump right in. Part 1 is about money and the characteristics of money. Money, remember, is a medium of exchange, but actually has a few other specific characteristics you need to know. Know the difference between commodity and fiat money. Commodity money is money that's backed by something, like has a gold standard or has intrinsic value. Whereas fiat money is completely symbolic. It's a piece of paper with numbers on it that represent currency. So we use fiat money in our economy, but in the ancient times, in order to ensure that something was going to be accepted as a medium of exchange, like universally accepted, you wanted that currency to have an intrinsic value, like a copper coin, for example, because that copper had intrinsic value. So that's the difference between commodity and fiat. Know the three functions of money. That money needs to be, in order to be considered money, it has to be a medium of exchange. I can buy goods and services with it. It has to be unit of account, meaning it indicates value. So if my jacket's $1,000, you guys all feel like you know what $1,000 jacket might look like and what kind of features it would have, as opposed to if my jacket was $4, right? That's a very different type of jacket. And then finally, it has to have a store value, meaning I can put it in the bank or I can put it away somewhere, and it's not going to lose all its value over time. So that's very important. So I can put off my purchases in the future, save up for major purchases in the future. So it has to have all three of those characteristics. We use our currency these days because they're generally accepted, because of the faith that people have in it, even though it's not backed by any gold standard, and it's portable and divisible. So you can pop it in your pocket. It's very easy to take around and easily divisible all the way up into 1/100th. It makes it easy to purchase things at different prices. You also need to know the difference between M1 and M2. M1 and M2 are the types of money. It actually goes all the way up to M5. But M1 is the most liquid. Liquid means I can use it as a medium of exchange, right? So you hear about liquidation of a company. It means they're taking all of their assets, like their machinery, their building, their infrastructure, and they're selling it and turning it into actual currency that you can use for a medium of exchange. In their case, it's to pay down debt. So M1 is cash and checkable deposits or demand deposits. That's what M1's made up of, because with those two things, I can use as a medium of exchange today. I can write you a check, I can swipe my check card, debit card we call them, or I can give you cash in both instances. So automatically liquid. M2 is a step away from that. So that's like a savings account, bonds fall into this, stocks, right? Things that take an additional step. I can turn them into a medium of exchange, but I have to sell them first. So I can have bonds that are sold and get that money and use that as medium of exchange, but I can't purchase something with my bond. I need to transfer it into cash or checkable deposit first. That's the difference between M1 and M2. When we're talking about changing the supply of money, we're talking about M1, checkable deposits and currency or cash. All right. You also need to know the time value of money, both the future value and the present value. Looks a little like this, not a little like this, exactly like this, right? You need to know this equation and know it pretty well. Let's try one out here. Let's say we have $100, and I'm trying to figure out what the future value of $100, that's supposed to be a dollar sign there, sorry about that, what the future value of $100 is in 1 year. So in 1 year, if my interest rate is IR is, let's say, 20%. That's a 220. There we go. All right. So I just plug these numbers in. Let me get a different color here. I just plug these numbers into my equation. I know it's basically the dollar amount times 1 plus the interest rate to the year power. So it's going to be $100, 100 times 1.2, right? Because that's 1 plus the interest rate of 0.2 or 20% in the hundreds form. And so I plug that into my calculator or I memorize it, and I know that's going to pump out $120. Now notice I didn't have to put it to the first power, because I know that when something is taken to the first power, it's the same as if it wasn't multiplied by anything, right? You multiply it by 1, it's still the same number. All right, so that's it. That's future value. Pretty simple equation there. You can do the present value if they say, hey, it's $120 a year from now. What's the present value of that? If you get $120 in a year, and then you plug it into this equation. The only difference is you divide by that number. It'll be $100 divided by 1.2, or $120 divided by 1.2, which will be about $100, right? And then the question they always ask is, would you rather have $100 today or $110 in the future? I'm like, well, $100 today will be worth $120 in the future. So I'd rather have 100 today and get 110 in the future. Okay, and you can look back at the early part of this unit and the early formative assessments and videos for more examples of that. All right, let's keep going. Actually, that's it. That's part one. Not a ton of questions on this part. Maybe 4 or 5 maximum. Really trying to make sure you understand M1, M2, checkable deposits, functions of money, and then that time value. Those are really the important things. As long as you know that, you're going to be in good shape. Time value of money, you're probably going to have one multiple choice question on that. All right, I hope that was helpful.